Welcome to a video on how to get good at the BFN Peashooter, perhaps the most beginner-friendly character in the game. Players who are able to master the art of getting 80% intended misses will be able to exploit the vast amount of bullshit upgrades that he has at his disposal. Let's get started. The BFN Peashooter is an assault class who specializes in having high amounts of splash damage that makes him a welcome character to players just starting out. The Peashooter's primary consists of a slow-firing pea cannon that shoots out highly damaging peas at 100 rounds per minute and has 10 ammo per clip before needing to take a speedy 1.5 second reload. Each shot fired from the pea cannon can deal 34 damage for a direct hit and up to 14 damage for the splash in a rather large radius. The peas do not have damage drop-off, though the projectile is rather slow, making him ineffective at longer distances. The Peashooter's first ability is the Chili Bean Bomb. Much like its Garden Warfare 2 counterpart, the bean is placed a couple of meters in front of the Peashooter before it explodes 3 seconds afterwards, dealing a maximum of 125 damage to all nearby enemies. Once the bomb has detonated, the ability will go on a 15-second cooldown. However, the bean does have two noticeable differences in comparison to its Garden Warfare 2 version. For one, when the button is pressed, instead of it coming out instantly, there is a small wind upcast animation before the bean bomb is launched. The other main difference is that the bean bomb has no mass at all, meaning that if you have watched 10,000 hours of Rick and Morty, then you can simply just deploy this piece of explosive diarrhea at your feet and sprint into it to carry it with you to your target of choice. Happy trolling those sprint enthusiasts who think they can simply run away from everything. The Peashooter's second ability is the Pea Gatling. This forces the Peashooter into a sentry-like state where you are unable to move, but you gain massive amounts of damage in turn. The Pea Gatling is capable of mowing down most targets within only a single second, and even if placed against a loaded station, it will come crashing down soon after. You get 100 rounds in the clip to use, and the cooldown can range up to a maximum of 30 seconds, depending on how much ammo is consumed. And lastly, Peashooter's final ability is Pea Souped. Pea Souped is arguably the class's strongest ability, for not only does it buff your damage capabilities, but it also grants you enhanced mobility. The Peashooter's rate of fire is increased by approximately 20%, allowing you to dish out much more damage than before. It also increases your movement speed by 10%, which, whilst it may not exactly be noticeable at first glance, does allow you to more easily catch up to your opponents, or if in an unfavorable position, quickly relocate to a more advantageous location. Lastly, it substantially increases your jump height, and by holding down the aim button whilst in midair, grants you the ability to hover slowly, which can be useful in maintaining high ground above your opponents, as well as to throw off their aim. Peashooter does suffer from a handful of weaknesses, which for a beginner class are expected. For one, his projectile is rather sluggish, making ineffective at long range, meaning that long range specialists like Pirate and 80s will be able to handle with you easily. Pea Gatling, for all of its high damage output, does make you stationary, which is a lot more harmful than you think, as all it takes is for a soldier to spot you at the worst time and send a ZPG your way, or if they're crafty, a stink cloud at you to force relocation. Lastly, Pea Soup's hovering may end up making you an easier target to hit in certain situations, so be sure to always take note of who your opponents are before you hover. Now, in terms of upgrades, Peashooter does have a wide range of upgrades that make him extremely powerful, with some examples including Reload Gatling, which can grant infinite ammo to Pea Gatling if the player is capable of hitting enough critical hits. Another great upgrade would be Combat Adrenaline, which increases the duration of Pea Souped upon dealing damage, which basically makes it last forever if you constantly keep finding opponents. One more contender would be the Last Ditch upgrade, which causes the final pea in the clip to deal stupid amounts of fucking damage, like, it can one-shot an imp with a direct hit levels kind of stupid. Thanks to this guide, you will now be the master of splashing people to death whilst you try to figure out PopCap's IQ levels on why the Peashooter of all classes gets a fucking homing upgrade. Be sure to come back for the next episode next week. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more shit like this. Have fun.